From Boca Raton, Florida, Rabbis Efrem Goldberg, Philip Moskowitz, and Josh Broide are taking you behind the Bima. The BRS rabbis schmooze about contemporary issues and talk to special guests who give a behind-the-scenes look at how they got to where they are and what keeps them going. Welcome to Behind the Bima.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wednesday night, 9 p.m., and we are here to take you
behind the Bima.
Behind the Bima. I am joined by my panelist, Rabbi Philip Moskowitz, Rabbi Josh Broide. It's another Wednesday night. In some ways, it's a historic Wednesday. It's Inauguration Day, very proud day for America, and a transition of power, which is really reflective of democracy. And whatever your politics, we are an apolitical show. We simply celebrate the fact that we have a new president, a new beginning. We're filled with hope and optimism and promise of a new future. And until someone loses that, they should have all Americans rooting for them. As has been said many times, to root against your own president is to root against the pilot of your own plane, because the consequences are grave for each and every one of us. I want to thank our sponsor this evening. Tonight's episode is sponsored in honor of Stories to Inspire, an organization dedicated to spreading inspirational stories told by today's most popular rabbis and speakers. You can visit stories2inspire.org, stories2inspire.org, access over 2,000 stories. Wow. Click subscribe to join their podcast. I think I have a story on there, yeah. Daily WhatsApp broadcast, email us, follow them on Instagram, stories, 2, inspire. If you have more inspiration, very grateful, and I hope everybody takes advantage. Who doesn't need more inspiration in their lives? We're still living in a dark time.
You know, every rabbi in the country is going to tell a story from Stories to Inspire this Shabbos.
I hope they do. Stories to Inspire is a great resource, and they should go to it. Everybody check out the website. The problem is now that we sent everybody to the website, the rabbis can't go there because they're going to tell stories their congregants all know, but still check it out. So today's it's a proud day, Inauguration Day. It's a day of hope and optimism. I hope you're both feeling good. And again, apolitical, whatever you think about the previous president or our now current president, today's a day to be a proud American and root for democracy, and I think that in itself is worth celebrating. Do you both agree?
I agree 100%. I wrote about it a few months ago that inarguably one of the greatest days in our nation's history was when George Washington gave up power and he gave it back to the people. And really that was unheard of in world history. Generally, the more power a person got, the more power they wanted. And Here you had a system that was really ready to coronate him as the king. And Washington said, no, it's a power that was given to me by the people, and I'm giving it back to the people. And that transition of power, when Washington did that, I think really symbolizes the greatness of this country. And again, whatever your politics are, I think it says a lot about our country that there was a smooth transition of power, and it's something we could all be very proud of.
I hope so. I hope so. Thank God. We tonight have an extraordinary guest. We are so excited to welcome her shortly. A good friend of our community, spent Shabbos in our community. And you got to be a good friend to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. It just tells you the power of this podcast and how far it reaches. Someone's willing to wake up that ungodly hour. I don't know what was more insane, asking her if she'd wake up that hour or the fact that she did. So she'll be joining us shortly, and we're super excited to have her. Meanwhile, the lottery, Powerball Mega Millions, just keeps going up and up and up. Have either of you purchased a ticket?
Well, I'm not purchasing it one yet because tonight is still the Powerball. So if I win like the 800 million in the Powerball, I don't think I need to go and buy another one for the 970 million.
You think you can get by on the 800 million?
Yeah, I have a whole plan already. Like 99% of it is going away. I'm giving it away.
Even though it's so irrational. Right, you guys, it's so irrational to buy a lottery ticket, and yet watching you guys, you're like two kids in a candy store. Explain to us the logic behind such irrational.
Can I tell you what it is?
Irrational thing to do. Yeah, the
$2 or $3. Like I buy the $3 ticket now, just because that extra dollar. You know, you could. I think you multiply so it will be like $4 billion I can win now.
The multiplier effect.
The multiplier effect. I'm telling you, the amount of excitement I get for the next like 2 or 3 days, just thinking what would happen, is worth every one of those $2.
So it's funny you say that. I have a very similar philosophy, which is I'm not paying because I think I'm going to win. All you have to do is look at the odds and know that you're not going to win. There's a greater likelihood of being hit by lightning twice on the same day than there is of winning the lottery. Do you hear me? There's greater statistical likelihood of being hit by lightning twice on the same day than there is of winning the lottery. So how could you squander and waste money to buy it? In fact, there are post-game who've entertained that question. is that halachically, according to Jewish law, Jewish values, are you allowed to waste money, squander $1, $2? Don't waste them the three, Brody, Rabbi Brody. And the answer is you're not paying in order to win. What I pay for is the right to dream. And it's a small price to pay to dream. Last Shabbos, I sat at the Shabbos table with my kids and asked them, what would you do differently if we won? What would change? What would change?
Yeah, my wife and I had the same conversation, and it's fun. It's fun to dream. It's fun to pretend and to figure out where you're going to spend $650 million that you're going to take home with you.
Can I just tell you
you're
something?
You're not pretending. Hold on.
No, you are. I'll tell you why. Because every study shows that lottery winners are miserable and highly depressed within a year after winning the lottery. Not to be the Grinch.
Okay, many are, but you know what? I'll take that test. But listen, Rabbi Brody, first of all, you kept trying to say something. Then I waited. There was just a long dead pause, and you said nothing. And now you're trying to say something again, but it's too late. So what I'll tell you is this.
Wait. No, I have something good to say. First of all, my mom will verify this, but I have two, I think, great-grandfathers that got hit by lightning. I'm pretty. It's like
on the same day.
My family.
On the same day.
I think they both were killed by lightning. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually quite sad.
No, but I'm just saying that maybe that shows you that I have good odds.
You never know. Lightning in a bottle. You've got good odds. So why buy it? First of all, poskim do say, according to Jewish law, Jewish values, you should not buy more than one ticket. You ever in the store and you have people, particularly those who can't even afford the one ticket, and they buy 10 or 20 or 50 tickets. Statistically, they think, well, if I buy 50 tickets, I'm 50 more times likely to win it. But you're not. The odds of winning it remain infinitesimally small. The odds of winning the lottery are 1 in 292,200,000. It's in tiny. When you buy 50 tickets, you haven't increased your odds. All you did is wasted money. So you have to buy one ticket because you got to be in it to win it. You can't win it if you don't have the one ticket. You can't dream. $1 and a dream. So I agree with Sal Abadi, our listener, who says that he would not be miserable if he won. And I don't think I'd be miserable either. And I think the right to dream and to ask yourself, if you would quit your job the next day if you won the lottery, then is what you're doing a job, a calling, or a profession? Is it a vocation or avocation? Do you love what you do? Or are you just doing it to pay the bills? So when you buy that ticket, you have the right to sit there and have those questions in that conversation. Would you move to Israel? Is your excuse for not living there? We'll talk to Sivan maybe about this, but your excuse for not living in Israel because you can't afford to? Well, what if you can afford to? 900 million? Yeah, everyone knows the worst and oldest joke of all time. How do you make a small fortune in Israel? You start with a large one, but I think you can make it even in Israel with $900 million. And so would you pick up and move to Israel? Would you quit your job? What would you do differently? $2 is a tiny price to pay for the right to have those conversations with yourself and your family. That's why I love it. Now, the real question is, and when the lotter's 20 million, it's not worth it?
I was going to ask, why do you only play when it's above $600 million? Your odds don't change. And if you want
money to give away,
you would be really happy in and of itself.
No, money's not for us. There's more things we can fund.
Exactly. A bigger difference that we can make.
Exactly.
Now we
dream bigger.
We have so much to talk about tonight. We have an amazing show planned for you. Before we bring Sivan on, I want to bring on another special guest just for a moment. He's not just a Jewish music superstar, he's a Jewish superstar and a music superstar. To paraphrase one of my children, there's only one musician alive and maybe in history whose songs play both in a club in Tel Aviv and a Sfarim store in Mea Shearim. And that singer is the one, the only, the great Yishai Ribo. Yishai Ribo is a modern-day paitan. Yishai Ribo is an individual who's like a modern-day poet from the heart. And he's here in South Florida. He's doing a bunch of concerts. The other night, we had the opportunity to go here. He did for Chai Lifeline children and Chai Lifeline families of those who them all a speedy and full recovery. Put on a beautiful evening for those kids, outdoors, masks. Everyone was extremely careful, particularly for those immunosuppressed children, but he did a beautiful job. Every time he sings, it's straight from the heart. So I spoke to him about the opportunity to come on behind the Bima, which he would have gladly done, but it didn't work out to do for tonight. Some language barriers, unless Rabbi Moskowitz or Rabbi Brody speak French, and I don't know. But he did want to record a short video and send a message to our listeners. So it's a pleasure to welcome Yishai Ribo with a message on Behind the Bima. Boca Raton Synagogue.
היי, מה נשמע לכל המתפללים והמשתתפים של הבית כנסת המיוחד בבוקה רטון? שמעתי דברים נפלאים עליכם, שאתם ממש מיוחדים, ספרדים, אשכנזים, מבוגרים, צעירים, אנשים ששומרים יותר, ששומרים פחות. אני חושב שזה מתכון לגאולה מה שקורה איתכם, והלוואי והדבר הזה יופץ לכל רחבי העולם והארץ.
אמן, אמן, תודה רבה.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Now, lest anyone be concerned, first of all, he had corona, he has antibodies. I wore a mask until the second. We just did that video from a distance, so we don't need anyone to
How you
email
feeling right now?
or to write in. If you watched it, there were English subtitles. If you're listening, his Hebrew, Shai Ribo, this real superstar, sent a message about what he heard about BRS, Ashkenazim, Sephardim, young, old, observant, less observant, and the fact that we all live under one roof, one community, one shul. And he says that, well, please God, bring the geula, the redemption. So I told him, and this is true, I'm sure you both feel the same way. You know, there's an expression that dvarim hayotzim min halev nechnasim halev, things that go out from the heart enter the heart. His songs that come straight out of his heart, they enter into ours. And I told him, so when I have to write a drasha, if I have writer's block or I hit a wall, or even if I'm just looking for inspiration, first thing I do is press play on my Isha Ribo playlist, and that opens up my heart, my neshama, and enables me to think and to write. And he's really just a special neshama. So Behind the Bima is grateful he sent that message and shared it with all of our listeners. And one day he'll learn a little more English, we'll learn a little more French and Hebrew, and we'll be able to coordinate to have him on the show as well.
Also, I see Matt Levin just tuned in there. One second, this is important. Matt, if I win this lottery, $100 million to the Federation.
Whoa,
you heard it here.
Wow.
Exclusive. That would be breaking news.
Wow, that would be breaking news.
Even like that, isn't that worth the $2?
By the way, Matt, just for the record, Rabbi Brady offered a new water fountain to Boca Raton Synagogue. So I'm very grateful. It is now an enormous pleasure for all of us to be able to welcome Sivan Rahav Meir, a good friend to us, a friend to our community, a friend to the whole Jewish people, an extraordinary person for so many reasons, not least of which is waking up so early in the morning. Sivan, from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. It was an outrageous chutzpah, as they say, for us to ask. And it's chutzpah for you to wake up this morning. Thank you so much for joining us so early from your home.
Good morning from Yerushalayim. That's okay. We're Israelis. For us, chutzpah is great. So yeah, no problem.
Exactly. Somebody, when we posted we were having you on social media, somebody wrote, I assume it's pre-recorded. And I said, no, Sivan is up at 3 o'clock every day. There's no way she could get done what she gets done on an average day if she's not awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. So our listeners all know, the whole Jewish world knows, Sivan has been listed by the Jerusalem Post as one of the most 50 influential Jews in the world. The Mizrachi, world Mizrachi Shlicha to North America before rudely interrupted, writes a column, Torah portion of the week for Yediot Achronot, and as has been put to me, is, although this will date me a little bit, the Katie Couric of Israel, as far as newscasters and journalists, who is recognized in every home throughout Israel. And Sivan, we want to hear your story. Our listeners want to know again, how did that happen? How did you really break down a barrier? Today is a first time in America, vice president, a female vice president, Kamala Harris, which is breaking down barriers and through ceilings. You, as an observant Torah journalist, media personality, breaking down barriers, taking Israel and the greater world by storm. How did that happen? How did that come to be?
Wow. Okay. So first of all, Mazel Tov, or what do you bless when you have a new president? Stability. Mazel Tov, Be'ezrat Hashem.
Amen,
although
amen.
we loved the Israeli president, it wasn't an American president. It was like an Israeli president in the White House. But okay, no politics, no politics. Anyway, Mazel Tov, Be'ezrat Hashem. May we be blessed now. God bless America.
Amen.
And Israel too. Complicated days here and there. Anyway, your question, basically, I should describe things that happened 30 years ago here in Israel, when I was just 6 years old, and I was very curious about reading and writing. I was a failure until today, whenever it comes to anything else, like sports, I don't know, playing the piano, playing the flute, all kind of cool activities like a normal child in Israel. It was a disaster. And then I discovered at the age of 6, I know how to read and write better than others. And I decided to invest, the time and energy and efforts there, okay? And that was the beginning of my career, basically. As a young girl here in Israel, I interviewed everyone, basically. Shimon Peres of blessed memory, Tzchak Rabin of blessed memory, many politicians, and Ishai Ribo. Okay, I interview him now. He wasn't so famous. He was approximately my age then. I think he lived in France then. But that was the beginning of journalism. And I added Judaism afterwards when I was a teenager. It's quite strange, because back then they weren't like pop stars like Ishai Ribo who sang about Judaism and Torah. It was very strict. Either you're secular, Chiloni, very Chiloni, or Dati, from Orthodox. And it was like discovering, a secret. I never met someone who is observant until the age of 15. It sounds weird. I mean, I live in a Jewish state. No, I never met someone who's Shomer Shabbat or Shomer Kashrut. It's possible. When you speak about the students, campuses of Florida, sometimes you have those students in Israel too, unfortunately. So these were I think the two revolutions, quite a young stage and early age. But that's me today, Baruch Hashem.
It's amazing. And you're a role model to so many, not just women, to so many people about how you could embrace a Torah way of life, you can embrace an observant way of life, and it doesn't have to hold you back or stifle you. You've been able to break through, and as I said, you're a media superstar across Israel in every form of journalism, from the news and being a newscaster regularly, to print media, to teaching Torah in a way that the president of Israel has attended, to the WhatsApp groups. How many languages are your WhatsApp groups in?
Wow, Baruch Hashem, 11 languages. English, obviously, French, German, Spanish, Yiddish, Portuguese. What else? We have Amharic, the Ethiopian language, Amharic, and more than 11 languages. Hungarian, yeah.
It's amazing. I'm on the English one. I get the inspirational message every day. You can go to Sivan's website and sign up easily to join one of the WhatsApp groups. But it's really extraordinary what you've been able to accomplish. Have you ever felt that being observant has held you back? Have you confronted discrimination both in Israel from the Jewish people, or even when you were broadcasting from abroad? Have you ever felt that anybody's held against you the fact that you're a Torah observant?
I think maybe because, I'm blessed to be Ba'alat Tshuva, I became observant. Maybe I see it in a different way, because sometimes when you come from a religious background and you enter, Channel 12, that's the biggest news channel in Israel. So you feel like, oh, I have that burden, I can't do this. I can't eat. I can't text on Shabbat. I can't be in touch with, I'm different. Maybe because I was a journalist and then I became more frum, I feel it added I feel it like adds something to my career, to my life, because it's much more meaningful now. I interviewed them all, as I said, from the age of 6, but now there's a meaning and there's shlichut, there's a mission here. It's like a task that, in a way, you can say, okay, she's not on TV on Shabbat. It damages her career. We all develop 3 days a week and she's here just 6 days a week. No, obviously it helps you during those 6 days before Shabbat and after Shabbat. It blesses everything you do. So the way we believe that concept, I think each mitzvah we do helps us and promotes us. And I don't like, sometimes people try to show, if you read Haaretz, they will tell you, no, she's from Iran. She's so extreme and she won't report this or that. I think the opposite. I want to report more things that you usually ignore because you just don't see it. If I represent, okay, Sherabenu, it's maybe I exaggerate, but if I represent Judaism, it brings more to the table. It brings, I think, more about, it's not just me, there are hundreds of thousands of years of inspiration here. Let's use it. And that's my perspective. It's not always easy. There are always conflicts, obviously, especially we're Israelis. We have our 4 elections in 2 years. Okay. We have our conflicts here. Yeah.
Keeping you busy.
Yeah. And my son just said, Mommy, I know we're the only democracy in the Middle East, but aren't we a little bit exaggerating with that democracy concept? We keep democratizing ourselves. I don't know.
We've proven it. Yeah. It's amazing, and it's really an inspiration to others. To me personally, the idea that nothing has to hold you back and you could stay true to your convictions and your dreams and still break through. It's a testament to your talent and to your personality and to the fact that people trust you. Sivan, I know you've interviewed an amazing array of really prominent people, from Rav Ovadia Yosef Zatzal, Lev Leviav. You were the first to break the story of Yigal Amir's marriage. By the way, I was in Keren B'Yavne with Yigal Amir. I still remember him from Yeshiva, who was the individual who murdered Yitzchak Rabin. Of all these prominent interviews that you've done, prime ministers, great rabbis, what's your favorite interview and why?
Wow, wait a minute. I think, first of all, the main scoop is just reporting what's going on in the Jewish world. I truly think our story, the mutual story, the story we built, it's the most fascinating scoop ever. I can't recall, I think about the world's history, a small nation, exile, coming back here, then again, the Holocaust, rebuilding the state of Israel, building world Jewry. I think it's the most interesting thing that ever happened, and I'm privileged to cover it, to expose, to show the tiny stories that, altogether they create that scoop. But one interview, I think every time I meet families of terror victims, you feel you touch destiny. I think maybe I interviewed Nathan Sharansky a few years ago. Before we went on Shlichut to the States, I interviewed Nathan Sharansky, and he said something very meaningful. I shared it with Jews abroad, so maybe I'll share it here too. Nathan Sharansky is, maybe you should have him here on your podcast. For him, waking up at 4, it's nothing after spending 12 and a half years in Russian jail with KGB investigations. So yeah, that's easy. So Nathan Sharansky is a real hero. He was Asir Tzion. He was in jail because of his ideology, Zionism, Judaism in communist Russia. And he said, before we went on Shlichut, he told me, you think what I describe as heroism, gvura. I think each individual Jew today is much braver than me. His bravery is greater. And I'm like, no, I'm not braver than you. I never spent one night in Russian jail. But he explained that today, the open world, liberal, Democrat world, where everything is accessible and available, is much more tempting. When he was inside that small cell, everything was crystal clear, right from wrong. And for him, it was very easy. He was identified with everything that is positive. They were like ultimate evil, and it's very easy. And when he walked out, from jail, he says, I became confused, and I'm still confused because this world is confusing. And I took that message, to all those unaffiliated Jews out there. Your bravery is greater. You're heroes. You're, coming to Boca Raton Synagogue on Shabbat morning, and I was there. I saw your beautiful community. That's bravery. You can do whatever you want. Nobody forces you. There's no community today that tells you what to do. You can really marry and eat and do and spend your time. Everything's available. Now you should choose. And if you choose Judaism, that's real bravery. That's not me. I'm just quoting him. I think that message is the main message I took, after 30 years of interviewing people. Yeah.
Before I hand it over to Rabbi Moskowitz, I just want to follow up with one other question. I'm sorry, Rabbi. And that is, and it applies to you, and people know that Yedidya, Sivan's husband, is also an accomplished journalist, an incredible talent in his own right. The two of you are doing something that's very unusual and borderline unique. And that is you're bridging different worlds within Orthodoxy, and each of those worlds thinks of you as their own. So you're a Shlicha of Mizrachi, unashamed, unapologetic Zionism, religious Zionism, yet Yedidya is a product of the Haredi world, and you became observant through a more Haredi orientation, from what I understand, even while you were on Shlichut in America and back in Israel, maybe even Haredi educational choices for children. And you're living in both worlds simultaneously to the degree that each world thinks of you as their own. In a time in which it's so polarized and everyone's fighting and defining themselves by what they're not, how are you able to do that? How are you able to give everyone that impression? And how can you encourage others? Because that's what we believe, that's what Boca Raton Synagogue is about, not getting caught in the differences and in the names and in the tags and the marginalizing of others, but to realize how much we have in common. You're doing it maybe better than anyone we know today. So share with us your secret.
Wow. Okay. First of all, it's worth, waking up so early, but, so much flattering words. Okay. Maybe it was worth it. Toda rava. I hope it will help me during the day, at 10 or 11. Okay. If you hear about a newscaster in Israel fell asleep in the middle of reporting the inauguration, okay, it's your fault. Anyway, now what you just described, Baruch Hashem, I hope it's not like hypocrisy, being so nice to everyone. I hope it represents us. In a way, it's not my fault. You decided the Orthodox Dream decided to divide, to live in so many sectors that are so divided. I mean, the fact I'm Zionist, I see it's something natural and healthy. I'm 7th generation Israeli, Baruch Hashem, native Israel. You hear the accent. My ancestors came here during the first Aliyah. They were real pioneers who founded the city of Rishon LeZion. I can't ignore what this revolution did, Baruch Hashem. I love the Haredi world. I appreciate the Litvak both and Hasidic world. I'm really connected to Chabad movement, to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and obviously religious Zionism. I feel at home there. And yeah, I also feel at home with my parents, my brother. I grew up in Herzliya, Ramat Sharon, secular places in Israel, and I'm in touch with them. I love them. It's my family. In a way, I think maybe that's the natural situation. When we received the Torah, nobody said at Har Sinai, okay, you're modern, you're to the right, you're to the left, you're Hasidish, you're Yeshivish, now maybe it's like childish. It's a childish way to describe things, but I think we need that concept. And maybe, what I discovered during our year in the States, maybe we need your format. Your formula of American Haredish. I don't know. Are you Haredi? No. Are you Bnei Akiva? No. Are you? It's something different, and we discovered it in many communities. When maybe when you're a minority, you have that ability of living in many worlds, and maybe I don't give a very like the answer is not so. I don't have a formula here. I do think it's important to create those bridges, especially here in Israel, between the Haredi and Zionist world. I think they can help each other. Each sector can help the other with its problems. I think they can solve each other problems in a way. So I maybe once again, because I became religious, maybe it's our mission, because in the past, when you became religious, when you became Baal Tshuva, you became very extreme, okay? And maybe today, you should create something else, maybe.
So I want to follow up on actually both of those comments, both your notion of shlichut, that you came to America, you spent a considerable amount of time here, and really the diversity of what you just described. Coming from Israel to America, you had a unique perspective on American society, on American culture, on American communities. You really crisscrossed America, visiting a number of different communities, very diverse group of communities. I'm curious your impressions on American Jewry, right? We sit in the bowl, we're in the forest right now, in the trees. I'm curious from your perspective, someone who kind of plopped themselves into America for a number of months, was able to see the width and breadth of American Jewry. What are some things you saw that surprised you? What are some of the opportunities that you didn't really recognize previously? What are some of the challenges? Give us a little bit of insight as an outsider into American Jewish culture.
Wow. First of all, we really spent, an incredible, almost a year. We visited, when we covered the elections here in Israel, I was like, oh yeah, Maryland, in Florida, in California, Georgia, Memphis, Texas. I know those places now. I was there, Washington, Boston, everywhere, Baruch Hashem. So it was quite an experience. I think I flew twice or even 3 times a week, Shabbatonim, like a scholar in residence in so many places. And then during the week, you can fly to Chicago in the morning and then go back home. It was like really a crazy period. Now we spent time at home finally. But I want to start maybe by flattering you, but then I want to tell you the truth, okay? I'll start. No, really, we discovered a beautiful, I would say, world of Judaism. And the Israelis, they know nothing about what you built. We're very proud of what we built here for 72 years, Baruch Hashem. But we never heard about, you built a world of yeshivot and chesed and chinuch. And, you built a strong, I would say, it's a lot of strength, a lot of, I would say, Jewish identity. Empires, the camps, the gap years, OU, YU, NCSY, everything's like, it's you have your way. You have your, I would say, bubble. And it's a beautiful bubble, and we loved it. I mean, the minute we lived in 5 towns, and we spent times with communities like you, strong and I would say developed communities. But whenever I looked, outside of that bubble, and that's the main problem, I think, the majority of the Jews are not there, and you can spend your whole life in that shulant, and even discussing the differences between the sectors inside, modern Orthodoxy. And you forget, I think 90% of the Jews are not there. They're not with you. They walk away. And in a way, I couldn't, I couldn't agree, I met so many Israelis there, American Israelis, more than 1 million. Okay, I think they all live in Florida, but more than, I met them all at Europe. No, but seriously, they live in America. They can't become members in most of the shuls. I know you have your own like Israeli minyan and you have Israeli families. I met them, but they don't feel at home whenever they go to a Jewish school. They don't pay, Jewish education, tuition, if you want to discuss other problems. So that they don't belong, but they assimilate, and that's a disaster. Their Israeli identity is fragile. It's not strong enough without Jewish ingredients. So I started working on many projects, and that pandemic ruined that too. We try to do more from here, but I think that's the main problem. If each individual in the States, each affiliated Jew belongs to a certain community, would pick one unaffiliated Jew, and they're the biggest stream today, and just, draw them in, okay? You can really change our future.
Love it.
Wow.
I just had a question, and I think it's kind of piggybacking on that, but from the other perspective, it was when you came to America and you said, I'm taking a year off of my life and my husband, we're going to go to America. What did you hope to achieve? And did it actually work out?
Wow. It was quite an adventure. I mean, we just felt that before we came, I spent like each month, I came at least once to certain communities, and we were really all over the place. And it became like a routine. So Mizrachi movement, they said, World Mizrachi Movement, led by Rav Doron Peretz. I remember Rav Doron said, why won't you just live there and do something meaningful? Each time you fly and you come back, and after 2 days, it's like, we feel there's the need, and we felt that too. So it's a crazy project, taking 5 kids, bureaucracy, documents, everything that has to do with moving your family to New York, changing everything, visas, health insurance, everything. You know what it takes, or maybe you don't because you were born there. But for us, it was quite a project, and understanding the nuances, sending kids to new Jewish schools, and it was like making Aliyah, but the other direction, the different direction. And now I understand Oli much more. I know how it feels to be the stupid mother, but you're not stupid. You're just an Ola. So and I remember the text messages. For me, it was like a code. GM, PM, TM, TY. I was like, what? In Israeli high school, we say good morning, thank you, PM, thank you very much. I was like. So I remember the first time I understood what they wrote, it was like, wow, yeah, I became local. But it's not just the nuances. We thought of doing something meaningful. I felt we did something meaningful, but it stopped quite in the middle because we planned to come for 2 years, and Baruch Hashem, everything was planned and booked, for the second year, but things changed. We wanted, you don't plan something like this beforehand. You want to discover. You want to come, journey. I don't know. We came to see and learn. I think we learn a lot, and we speak about you all the time here, and vice versa. So yeah, becoming, as you said, maybe becoming a bridge here too.
We have more shawarma per capita in South Florida than anywhere in the world, I think, including Israel. So we definitely have our share of Israelis. If I could ask you a little bit of a personal question, not that they haven't all been personal questions, but if there's any time, it's at 4:30 in the morning that I might get a chance to ask it. So Sivan, you're clearly an enormously ambitious woman. From a young age, you were precocious. You told the story more fully when you were in our shul for Shabbos about passing notes in the class, and the teacher you were interviewing, essentially all the other classmates in your class, till the teacher became jealous, and then you interviewed her.
How do you remember everything? Wow.
I remember that story. It's an amazing story, and you climbed that ladder till you've become a premier journalist in Israel. It's really amazing that you're on our show, a premier journalist across the whole state of Israel. So as I said, you're clearly ambitious, and you have great goals, and you go achieve them. And you've done it not only professionally, you're doing it in teaching Torah as well, not only on WhatsApp, but also the shiurim that you give and the weekly Torah lessons. And as I said earlier, the people who attend, like the President Rivlin and others, it's amazing. How do you balance that as a religious woman? How do you as a woman feel ambitious and the sky's the limit what you can achieve, and yet embrace Judaism's attitude, approach towards modesty in general, particularly the role for a woman? How do you find that balance of knowing where you can push and where your role with your beautiful family, your amazing 5 children? What would be a message to Jewish women, young women, all women, about what you can do and yet remain within the framework of Torah?
Wow. That's a good question. No problem. You can ask whatever you want. But once again, I don't think I have the formula. I don't like it when people ask me, okay, what's the secret? No secrets. I live my life, Baruch Hashem. I try to ask. We have our rabbanim of our family. I have, whenever I have like a serious question. I always think of, what would the Lubavitcher Rebbe say? I mean, what would he do in order of shlichut and balancing family and career and what you do inside? He would always say that's your shlichut, your family, your house, the education of your kids. Maybe that's the first shlichut before you educate the whole world. By the way, that year, maybe that's the answer for you. That year really taught me something, the lesson, the message. Because for me, before COVID-19, shlichut was standing before how many Jews listened to you every Shabbat morning? Almost 1,000. When we were there in the middle of a winter break, I hope you don't miss it too much because I know things are different now. But standing in front of those Jews, speaking to them, going to an event with Hillel or Chabad, speaking to unaffiliated students about Israel and Torah. That was my shlichut. Flying to Boston, flying to Chicago, everywhere, Maryland, everywhere. But now my shlichut, this year, my shlichut is here between the kitchen and the living room. And the audience, the masses, their names are Aharon, Tamar, Netanel, Hillel, and Yehudit. Sometimes my husband, Yedidia. I have 6 people. That's the crowd. That's the crowd. That's it. 5 kids, 1 husband. That's it. And that's your shlichut. And they don't listen to me. No, standing ovations. No, you should cook and clean and make them learn. Distant learning. 5 kids here. It's a school, basically. The school is closed now. It's good you called now because it's a school. This house, 5 kids, 5 different classrooms each day. There's, lockdown now. And what this year taught me, and I think I don't want to conclude yet. I don't know what Hashem plans are, but for me, that my shlichut inside, the family inside the house is even bigger and more important and harder. It's much easier speaking, coming to one night Manhattan and the other at Jersey. Boy, I miss all those communities, but it's much easier. Impressing them with my stories about Israel, it's very nice. It's important. It's much harder and much more important to be with your kids 24/7 now for almost a year. And that's much harder. And maybe it taught me something, so it's not balanced right now. Because last year I was everywhere. This year in a way, we're all stuck here. So maybe, balancing it afterwards will be quite a challenge.
Like a reset of sorts. How do you give us some insight as a journalist? We don't get to speak to newscasters. Katie Couric has not yet joined behind the Bima, but you never know. So, Sivan, tell us, how do you approach a story? Do you find the story? Are you assigned the story? What do you bring to the story? Are you bringing your own editorial and your own personal values, or are you simply reporting on the story? Give us some insight into how a newscaster works.
Yeah, sure. First of all, don't underestimate behind the Bima. How many Sure, the rating is great. I'm on Israeli TV almost every day, but the first time people texted me from all over the world, people from New York and others, and new immigrants from Israel, Olim, they said, "Wow, you're Modi'in, Bet Shemesh, you're on Behind the Bima tonight."
Wow.
So yeah.
Listen, wait till we're translated into Ethiopian. We're gonna get a whole new audience here.
Anyway, the approach. Let's think about it. In a way, I think today, people are not so interested about the information. They don't need me for the data, for the facts. Okay, they have it. They get push notifications before I even I quote it. They know it. The information is free. It's out there. You all know everything. Okay. In the past, by the way, you needed me. I covered the Supreme Court. I covered the Knesset, our parliament. I was chasing after politicians, and to bring the information. That's not the system anymore. You have it. You're just here. You have it all. So what you do need, I think, we should rethink about what do you want when why should you pay a journalist? Okay, if you know everything. So you need us for, I think, context, broader context, maybe connecting past, present, and future, bringing something more meaningful. If I want to listen to, I don't need their the facts anymore. I want their agenda. I want their ideology, the narrative, the way they see the story. That's the only reason to follow them, to listen to them, to see, to what. So today I think you cannot be an objective journalist anymore, because you will just be boring. We needed that in the past. Thank you. Now, unless it's like a very, a scoop, something you discover, you reveal, unless it's new information, like something you researched, we want your opinion. So that's what I try to do. Yeah, I share my agenda everywhere. And I think that's the only reason to follow me today.
Can you tell us what story you're working on right now? Break it here.
Okay, no, no, the real answer, no,
Yeah, you can.
Viewers are listening now from Israel behind the Bima. No, I can't give you the real answer. But we
Who's
always
going to win the Israeli election?
It's like you got to just play that breaking news thing. She'll feel compelled to say something.
No, but let me ask you a question, because right, you're a masterful interviewer, right? What goes into an interview? Take us behind the preparation, the number of questions. What are you looking for? What are you looking to get out of an interview? Do you get nervous for an interview? Do you ever get worried that you're going to come to a point in an interview and there's going to be an awkward silence? What goes on behind the scenes before you interview someone like Shimon Peres or Nathan Sharansky or someone very popular that you know is going to be watched very widely?
By the way, I also interviewed Sarah Netanyahu, our first lady, or some say she's our prime minister. So yeah, Baruch Hashem, I interviewed many of them. I think maximum preparations. I mean, you should prepare in order to achieve maximum. I would say being spontaneous. If you prepare many questions, you can really feel free. I mean, you should read, Google, search, ask other people's, for their tips and ideas about what should I'm not ashamed. I text my colleagues every day. This minister comes to the studio. What do you think I should ask? Ask him. I do it all the time. I mean, I ask people all the time for their tips, but in a way, I think, and maybe people will say it's a mistake. A transparency helps. If imagine a few days ago, one of the supreme ministers here in Israel came to my show, and I told him beforehand what are the topics, what are the main questions. Now, maybe one will say, well, she's crazy. You're supposed to surprise him. I believe in a way. If he prepares good, I told him, but prepare good answers, because I want you to give me, in Hebrew we call it ten li basar. Give me something like a meal, I want something, in response. Don't just say, oh, I don't know, I'll think about it. Give me something. I want you to treat that, to answer that issue. I want your opinion on that. And it helped. I mean, it was much. I think it was one of the best interviews he gave, just because I helped him to help himself and help me. Maybe people will say, "Oh, she's crazy. Why do you keep it?" And surprise him. I want the content. Okay, I don't just want the surprise. I also love to ask them about their personal life. Whenever someone comes, I ask them, during the lockdown, how many kids do you have? What do they do? What about distance learning? Does it work? How do you manage, or your husband, your wife, do you it together now? Personal questions about COVID-19, not just policy and not just, political questions. Tell me about your life. These things are the most fascinating things at the end of the day.
What's it like as a public personality? Are you stopped often when you're out in public in Israel? Everybody recognizes you. You're on TV almost every day. How do you maintain a privacy? You're not always in the mood at a restaurant to leave your family.
I'll tell a story. I'll actually tell you a story about that, which is that last year, right before you came, we hosted a unit of Israeli soldiers, this amazing program called Peace of Mind. And at one point, you sent me a WhatsApp message. The guys were on my phone. These 20 army guys. They're on my phone, and a message from you popped up. And you should have... Sivan is texting, it was they couldn't believe it. They said, can we send her a message back? It was like a rock star. I couldn't, and that was really the first exposure that I had. And I was like, yeah, we've been texting back and forth for a month. They couldn't, but blew their mind away. So yeah, you're noticed.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for arranging that Shabbat. Okay. One of the last Shabbat thought we had before this thing started. Yeah. But I think one of the advantages maybe when we lived in 5 towns, nobody knew who we are. That was very, no selfies for a month. It was like, wow, quite a diet, no selfies. Yeah, here, Baruch Hashem, I like it. And I grew up that way, from the age of 6 or 7, people recognize me. They know who I am, and they follow for 30 years, the changes, the kids, everything. They it's not like I became a superstar, overnight. That's dangerous. Those peaks, it's dangerous. But for me, it's like, that's the way I live, and the kids, they're familiar with it, and I like it. I don't run away whenever I see icons like celebrities. When they run away, people chased after, and it becomes like a scene. You just stand and say, yeah, why not? Let's smile, let's hug each other. Now it's not allowed, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So it's not like it doesn't become too dramatic. I love meeting people. Sometimes I listen to their stories, and that becomes, the next post, the next story I cover. And I'm not like, I think because it's Baruch Hashem, it's almost like a generation for 30 years. So it's quite average. It's not like I won, I don't know, some contest, a reality show yesterday, and now I'm a superstar, and the next day. It's part of our life, and we like it. We like it. The kids I think even the kids like it when people stop you and ask you questions. It's always funny and interesting. And why not? If you can do in 5 minutes such a mitzvah, people are happy just to record, your bracha for someone's bar mitzvah on the street. Why not? It's the easiest mitzvah. Yeah, great.
We've been talking all about your successes, and it has been from our perspective. If all you do is Google your name, and all that comes up are websites that list the awards and the accomplishments and the achievements. Has there been any area that you failed? Have you ever struggled? And how did you overcome it? What did you learn from it?
Wow, many failures. Yeah. First of all, when you Google my name, you don't see that year of, the dream that stopped in the middle, our shlichut, coming back to Israel, many tears, many fights. At the beginning, we thought, okay, it's temporary. We'll just rent a place in Israel and we'll come back. America's waiting. Okay, we're all dealing with that crisis, and we couldn't come back, and we moved. We lived in 4 different places since that pandemic started, because we moved and we rented something temporary, and then Baruch Hashem, now we're here in Yerushalayim. But in a way, it was quite a crisis for us. It wasn't so easy, and the kids, they left their American schools in the middle of the year. By the way, if you can help us out, their books, are still there in lockers, locked inside lockers in Rockaway. I don't know what's going on with their books and, all the equipment. Everything stopped, and we moved in the middle of the night. We never said goodbye. For us, it was quite shocking. And so, I'm not perfect. It wasn't the best year. And that's just one example. I can't cook. It's very, my daughter Tamar, she's 14 now, Baruch Hashem. She started working, and she's very successful in the kitchen. It's awful whenever the kids are like, no, mommy, don't even try. So all I can do is like make an omelet or something. So many fields I drive. Wow. I can't park in reverse, and my husband says I can't even drive forward. I mean, it's not so successful, not the best. No, many fields, many things I should improve when it comes to praying, davening with kavanah, when it comes to learning more seriously. During this year, I always feel I learn like nothing is stable. And many problems. I can add many more to the list.
Last question, because we've kept you. It's the middle of your night. Again, from the bottom of our hearts, we're so grateful. Last question for you. So we were talking before you came on. There's a big lottery in America right now. I know they have in Israel also the lottery. So it's at record numbers. There are 2 lotteries. There's the Mega Millions and Powerball, 2 separate tickets. And each of them at this point are close to $1 billion each. I mean, combined, it's almost, $1.75 billion. Rabbi Brody bought tickets to each. He's convinced he's going to win. He already announced a pledge to our local federation. He has yet to announce what he's given to Boca Raton Synagogue. But we'll take care of that after you leave. My question for you, the last question for you, Sivan. If you won $1 billion, what would you do with it? How would you change the world?
Wow. First of all,
would you quit your job?
In America, first of all.
That would use up most of it.
I should thank them for the discount. I can send my kids. No, but seriously, wow. I think for the first time I would do. No, I love what I do. We asked it many times. The kids ask us, "Mommy, if we'll become millionaires, will we change something?" I think most of the things, maybe one show or one project, maybe I do it for Parnassa, and it's okay, it's allowed. But most of the things, I love it. By the way, the project, the daily WhatsApp project, we're all volunteers. There's no money involved here. I do it. I work for Zuckerberg for free. We all work for free for Zuckerberg. In a way, maybe it's the first time I could open my own project, because I always worked for others, great places, movements, organizations. But I think Jewish education, and especially Jewish education for Israelis abroad, that's like my dream now. I understand that's the urgent mission. Wow. Jewish Israeli kids in Canada and the States. I saw the families. They recognized me. They came, on one family. They came, they drove to the shul in Philadelphia. They came Shabbat morning with the keys, the car keys. They came into the shul. It was 11. I was a scholar resident. I finished my drasha, my shiur, and I remember the way they rushed into the hall and said, "Wow, Sivan Rav Meir, Ipo." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm here." "Oh, we heard you're here. Someone texted us and we came." I told them, "Okay, do you know that?" No, we didn't even know there's a shul here. The community never. So I invited them. I said, "Okay, please stay and be with us during that Shabbat." They lived like, I don't know, they drove, but they were there. They were part of the area. And the way they came, in the middle of that Shabbat was so sad in a way. And I looked at them. I said, what's going on here? They know nothing about this community and this shul. This shul, they don't care about them. Do they see themselves as one nation? Do they see this if they have a problem? I mean, what's going on here? And yeah, I think maybe it sounds like we have problems in Israel too. But after spending almost 1 year in America, I believe more Jewish education, and that it's like it's a mutual treasure. And giving that opportunity for free or in a very cheaper way to more Jewish kids, yeah, I think that's a nice way to spend $1 billion. Yeah.
So I'll tell you this, in honor of your waking up so early in the morning and joining us, if Rabbi Broide wins, he's pledging $30 million to help you start a new program to help Israelis abroad with Jewish education. Rabbi Broide, 30 million?
100 million. 100 million.
100 million.
Yeah, I'm matching.
You're 200 million in.
I'm already 200 spent. But you know what? I was listening to what she said, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's so. I'm up to 150 million, actually. We're throwing in 150. I agree with you.
Call that the foundation? How will we call it? The Broide?
No. We're going to.
No, anonymous?
Anonymous. Anonymous.
Definitely not anonymous if you know Rabbi Broide.
It's not going to be anonymous, but it's also not going to be not anonymous.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing. Rabbi Broide doesn't realize that when you win, there's after tax and after, the payout. So he's already giving away more than he's going to take home. But you heard it here, Sivan, from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much.
Remember that promise. I bless you from Yerushalayim, American Lottery, Mizrachi.
Win it.
Simone's going to come in soon, and Simone's going to cut off your microphone soon, Rabbi Broide.
I know Mrs. Waldman, my math teacher from JC, is listening. She's like, those numbers don't add up.
She knows.
Didn't I teach you how to do math?
Sivan, please send our warmest regards to your amazing husband and to your beautiful family, and we wish you only bracha v'atzlacha. We should merit to have you back in America teaching and inspiring and on Shlichut, and we thank you for all that you do, and thank you most of all for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Toda rabba miYerushalayim. Laila tov, boker tov. Okay, good night and good morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
One of a kind. She's a real powerhouse. And
what
such
energy.
Inspiration.
It's contagious energy.
Such a powerhouse. I hope she either drinks a big cup of coffee or goes back to sleep, because that was so kind of her to join us. Yeah, Rabbi Broide, you better crunch some numbers over there and figure out.
No, I want you to know I have a whole list already. Trust me, everyone's going to get
person. You're the only person who could win $1 billion lottery and need the community to support you. You might be the only person.
I might need it. There's a good chance it might happen.
Be the only person.
I have no problem with that.
It's really amazing. So
I like how she
said.
I like when she said that when she meets with special people and she's like, "Ten li et basar," give me the meat. I could see you being like, "Ten li et a shawarma with the lafa." Give me the whole.
Yeah, there's so much more to talk about. I'd love her insights on the Israeli election. I'd love her insights on how to bridge the gap between the religious and the secular in Israel. So, we won't wake her up again in the middle of the night, but we'll have to bring her back sometime soon to keep talking. So, this week is 70 years since the Rebbe, Zatzal, Zuchus Yogen Aleinu, 70 years since the Lubavitcher Rebbe ascended to his position as Rebbe. We could have spoken to Sivan about this too. She spoke about significance of the Rebbe in her life, his influence in her life. What's amazing, if you've read the biographies of the Rebbe, you'll know that he actually resisted, like Moshe Rabbeinu before him. He said no. He didn't want to be the Rebbe. It took a full year from his father-in-law's passing until he became the next Rebbe. And look how much richer the Jewish world is because he did. Now Jews can go anywhere in the world, all 50 United States, but really anywhere in the world, and there's a warm Chabad house to welcome you, a minyan, kosher food, a mikvah, tefillin, the campaigns that he ran, transforming the Jewish world. You talk about shlichut or shlichus, the Rebbe's contribution. So 70 years since he ascended to that position, and look at the army that he's left behind.
Well, we've discussed that in the past. Is there anyone certainly 20th century Jewry, but I could argue going back, is there anyone in the last 100, 200 years who has transformed worldwide Jewry more than Lubavitcher Rebbe? Changed the face of how people approach Judaism, feel connected to Judaism, the projects, the width and breadth of of what they're able to accomplish across the globe. It's hard to argue that Lubavitcher Rebbe is at the top of that list. And again, whether you associate with Chabad, whether you're a general like Rabbi Goldberg, I think all of us have been touched by his leadership and by the impact that he had over the last 70 years.
Yeah, no, you have the people who are like, I'm not a Chabadnik, until they go on vacation or have a business trip. God forbid they're saying Kaddish or they want kosher food. All of a sudden, everybody is a beneficiary of the vision of the Rebbe. But that's only one way. I mean, he was the leader.
Well, when did you first connect with? You didn't grow up Chabad. When did you first connect with the Rebbe, the Rebbe's mission, the vision? When did that? Because I know it's very much a part of you now. When did that change?
I definitely have to credit Boca for it, but when I did grow up in Teaneck, there was a Chabad of Teaneck, and my parents had a dear friend, Bruno Bieler of blessed memory, a dear friend to my parents and to me, and he was very involved in the local Chabad, which at the time in Teaneck, I don't know, it was doing outreach as much as Jewish enrichment and education. That's when I first became a private in Sivos Hashem, before my promotion to general most recently, as you know, on Behind the Bima. So that was my first exposure to it. But really, it's here in Boca, our relationship with our local Chabad rabbis.
Absolutely.
And they're not just people that we work with. And we have colleagues in other communities where there's some tension, there's some conflict. For us, not only is there no tension or conflict, there's not only cooperation, there's genuine friendship. Real friendship, going to one another's
and mutual respect,
confiding,
mutual respect.
Yeah, enormous mutual respect, and we've collaborated, we've confided, we've worked together. There's a friendship. We've been there for one another. This week is an example. Thursday night, Benny Friedman concert, now on the 70th anniversary of the Rebbe ascending to that position, interspersed with messages about the Rebbe that our local Chabad rabbis are going to be sharing. And whether it's Yutes Kislev Fabrengen or Thomas Fabrengen or the different Fabrengen that we do, I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but the biggest Chabad Fabrengen right now in Boca Raton and maybe Palm Beach County and beyond happen at Boca Raton Synagogue, because we're all Chabad. So there's so much I identify with about his positive messaging and his concentration on words, his sensitivity and care to the greater Jewish community and to bringing values to the whole world, the notion of shlichus. I mean, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary what he did.
It's interesting because I didn't grow up with really an awareness of Chabad. In Boston, it wasn't as much of a presence when I was growing up. But for me, it became much more of an influence when I got to YU. And I started going to the Rebbe's Ohel on Thursday nights.
You stared going to Deli Kasbah and you had to say
no. First of all, that Dvar Torah there for the free dessert. But no, I wanted to, go to the Rebbe's Ohel in the middle of the night. There's no greater place for introspection and davening for me. And that became a regular mainstay of my experience at YU. And it was really through that I started getting more familiar with Chabad and who the Rebbe was. And then obviously once the biography started coming out, that's when I became much more aware of what he, his mission, his vision. And of course, as you said, our Stiebelman here at BRS, where they remind me every week that I might look like a Litvak on the outside, but in my inside, my kishkas, I'm a Chabadnik.
Yeah, the Ohel is a special place. You and I had the great privilege of going there with Rav Moshe Weinberger at Shlicha, and to have him speak to us, a small group of Rabbanim, and to daven at the Ohel with him was a really, really extraordinary experience. And it's a very special place, the Ohel.
Best cookies.
Cookies, seltzer, that machine where you can get like whatever drink you want out of it. It's amazing.
And the teas, the cookie and the tea on a cold night with the heater on over your head.
It's special, the Ohel of the Rebbe, yeah. I took my daughter there before her wedding, and then my second daughter, I took her chassan to the Ohel of the Rebbe before, and we go to, there's a lot of worthwhile graves to daven at, but there's something special. It's at the Ohel of the Rebbe that you'll see the totality of the Jewish people, and you'll see non-Jews. Right. You'll see everybody comes there. So that's really a microcosm, a representative of who he was and the difference that he made. So that'll be a date that we mark this week, an important date that we are marking. Let's close. I want to ask you one more question, Rabbi Broide. You had something?
Yeah, I was going to say one of the projects that I had, it didn't work out yet. I still haven't given up. Is trying to find a photo of my father visiting the Rebbe for the dollars. You get these dollars on a Sunday, I guess. And I went through probably at least 100,000 photos online. I haven't seen, and that was only since like maybe 1988, 89 through 93. I think it was when he might have passed away. But you look at the types of people that went during that short period of time to go visit him, and you look at it will blow you away. For heads of state, presidents from many different countries, and he's not going to visit them. They're coming and visit, and they probably had to wait in some sort of line. I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's amazing. It's inspiring.
Yeah, it is amazing. And in fact, it's a reminder to thank our sponsor again, Stories to Inspire. Check out stories2inspire.org, 2,000 stories. Follow them on WhatsApp broadcast, email list, Instagram. I think if I have a story on there, I think it's the story I told about one of our members, one of my neighbors, who received $1 from the Rebbe and gave it away, used it to buy something as her act of rebellion against the Rebbe, Chabad, Judaism, Torah. And more than a decade later, she was working in a store, and that $1 that had her name on it came right back to her. And that was a...
How do you explain that?
Amazing.
That's a crazy
goosebumps
story.
every time. Goosebumps every time.
It's an amazing story.
I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna write a note on a dollar bill. See where it ends up one day. Maybe I'll come back. Come back to Phil.
Yeah, so I think Rav Schechter told me you would not have likely seen it. I interviewed Rav Schechter, and he spoke about his time that he went and got a bracha from the Lubavitcher Rebbe and gave him an article he had written. The Lubavitcher Rebbe remembered it, but he told me another amazing story, and you wouldn't have thought Rav Schechter would tell Lubavitcher Rebbe stories. He told me, it's not in that interview, but off camera, he told me a couple of other stories. And in one of which, listen to this story. Somebody went to the Rebbe for a bracha to get married, and the Rebbe said, Bekarov etzlacha, Bekarov, soon. And it took him like 2 or 3 more years to get married. And he was always bothered that he got this bracha from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe is the great Rebbe, the prescient, prophetic Rebbe. He gave him this bracha, and yet it took a while. Why didn't it happen sooner? And now these video archives are now coming out about people going to the Rebbe. They're indexing them. People are looking for themselves. And the person found the video of when they went to go get the bracha from the Rebbe. And behind him in line was the woman he ultimately married.
No way.
And when the Rebbe said Bekarov, close to you, he didn't mean close to you in time. He meant, turn around, bozo.
She's right there.
She's right behind you. She's right behind you.
Crazy.
She's right behind you. And there are other really amazing, amazing stories like that. We are out of time, even though there was more to talk about. I want to talk about the letter to the successor. What would you stick in the drawer of your successor? What would you write in the letter? Because while President Trump didn't attend the inauguration of President Biden, he did leave him a letter, which has become a new custom. And the one question that President Biden answered earlier in the day in a press conference, or while walking out, was about the letter. And he said it was a very generous and gracious letter. He doesn't have the permission to share what's in it, but it was a very generous letter. So what would you leave? What would you leave to your successor, whether it's in your job or in some ways successors in life, your values, what's important, what's the message you'd want to get across? I'll let you think about it. That's your homework for next time. But I want to thank Sivan Rahav Meir for joining us this evening in the middle of the night. Special thank you to our sponsor, stories2inspire.org. Check it out. Huge thank you to our new good friend, Yishai Ribo. Go listen to his music. It will open your heart and your soul. And listen to his message about what a special place Boca Raton Synagogue is. What another great show. Thank you, Rabbi Broide, Rabbi Moskowitz. No one I'd rather spend Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock with. To those coming for Yeshiva Week or going away, be careful, stay safe, stay healthy. It's still a pandemic going on. Got to distance, you got to wear masks. And if you're coming from elsewhere, you can't.
Are you going to publish your yearly article welcoming New Yorkers and your advice for them while they're visiting our community?
After gently suggesting something to New Yorkers Pesach time and the threats that I received literally, and that's for Shul Cynic, literally threat to throw a brick through my window because New Yorkers were offended, as if I and my family are not all from New York.
He offended the whole New York.
Yeah, offended the whole New York. It's amazing. Their governor and mayor don't offend them, and I offended them from Boca Raton. That's not easy to pull off. Whatever. But anyway, so I think I will not be saying that message this year. We love everybody, and we just love everybody to be careful together. That's all. That is the message. Until next time, until next week, same time, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay holy, our dear friends.